Hi guys, this is Stefan from Tech Testers, and today we're going to be looking at something very cool. The Asus ROG Swift PG27UQ, which is a 27-inch 4K 144Hz G-Sync HDR local light dimming monitor. Let's take a look. Now let's start with the basics, and if you've seen an Asus gaming monitor over the last few years, this probably looks very familiar. So they still have a very sturdy foot. It's not exactly understated. You're definitely going to realize this is a gaming monitor. Now they're reusing some of the things we've seen before, like the ROG logo being projected down, and there's still a huge RGB logo on the back. Of course, whether you're going to see that depends on you, because that doesn't actually project strong enough to be on the wall. However, what's new, and it's kind of cool, is the addition of a Batcave style logo that projects to the front, to the top. And opinions are going to differ, right? So some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. Thankfully, you can turn it off if you hate it. So we think it's a pretty cool thing that they added it, and they have to keep adding some new stuff. Aside from that, on the back you find a DisplayPort connection for your PC. There's also an HDMI connector which you can use. You can also connect the console to that. And we have to give credits to Asus for their OSD support, because the OSD is well thought out, and being able to control it with both proper physical buttons that are, you can feel the difference between them, as well as a joystick, actually works fantastic. So we're quite happy with the overall physical appearance and functionality. Now let's talk about the gaming on this thing, and that is truly phenomenal. It's a damn shame we cannot show this to you through a camera, because there is not a single gaming monitor that offers an experience quite like this one. If you're playing HDR games, for example, Destiny 2 is a great example of HDR. Assassin's Creed Origins, The Witcher 3, the recent Final Fantasy, games are coming to life unlike anything before. It's essentially like what OLED is for televisions, where you have these ridiculously low black values and these really like high peak brightness levels, and that is just insane. At the same time, it does kind of require games to use HDR, because if you're running non-HDR games, obviously not all the benefit is there. However, the local light dimming does work on all games, so comparing this to other 27-inch gaming monitors, it is still considerably better. Now, if you're just considering this for fast games like Counter-Strike, CSGO, Fortnite, and you care about the speed, get a faster monitor. There's cheaper 240Hz monitors. If you play those occasionally, they're still going to be great on this one, but don't buy it specifically for those games. Now keep in mind that in order to make use of this monitor, or proper use of this monitor, is you need a beefy system. You need a GTX 1080 Ti. There's no discussion about this. You can run it on a 1050 or 1060, but that's not the point. You're not going to make use of it. Ideally, when the next generation graphics card comes out this month, next month, who knows, you're going to buy the newest one, and the fastest one at that. Now, there is one thing that we really need to clear up. People seem to be mixing up the refresh rate and the FPS count of a game. Now, there's definitely some truth to a relation there, because one of the advantages of a super fast screen is that you can run a crazy high FPS game. And what people are then saying is like, what's the point in a crazy fast 4K screen? Because you're never going to run AAA games at such a high FPS count. And that is true. That's just not going to happen, even with next generation graphics cards. However, the upside of a faster screen, a 144Hz refreshing screen, is even like very present when your games are running at 40, 50 or 60 FPS. The difference is huge, especially in this case, where for the first time we're seeing G-Sync come into play at the 4K resolution. The difference is even bigger than ever before, because many of those AAA games on your GTX 1080 Ti are going to be running with all bells and whistles, because that's why you're buying this. They're going to run 40, 50 or 60 FPS. And suddenly it's not just a fast screen that's refreshing quickly, but G-Sync is also giving you a butter-smooth presentation. So unlike any 4K gaming experience we had before that was always, kind of okay, this is the first proper fantastic 4K gaming experience. Now for the price you're paying for this, which is significant, you don't just expect a fantastic experience, you expect a perfect panel. And rest assured, you are getting a perfect panel, and we have to give credit to AUO, the manufacturer of the panel behind this, for doing a fantastic job. Now, it's not just a screen that has the experience, but it has a perfect color settings. Straight out of the box, it's perfectly calibrated to sRGB. Straight out of the box, it has a perfect gray balance. The uniformity, which is usually a weak element of gaming screens, where the sides are going to be slightly weaker performance or test results slightly worse than the center, it's great. Even the contrast we're seeing VA level contrast on an IPS panel. That is something we haven't seen before. There is seriously nothing to complain about this. And then there's no backlight bleed to speak of. There's perfect viewing angles. And essentially what we have is not just a perfect gaming monitor, but we have a screen that's a perfect video editing monitor or a perfect professional photo editing monitor. There's even Adobe RGB support in there, which means that you could do professional print publishing if you wanted to on this. There's seriously nothing to complain about the results. If you want to see all the results, however, check the link below. We'll have a link to our written review with all the test results and so on. But take it from us, we have never seen a performance like this, and that is very good news. Now, so far so good, right? We've been giving plenty of praise to this screen, but there's definitely some downsides to consider. We're not just here to stuff some feathers up the behind of this screen. Now, one of the things you're probably not going to care about that much is the high power consumption. It makes sense considering all the technology that's in there, but it's something we have to point out that you're probably going to be spending a few euros or dollars more on a yearly basis if you use this aggressively. We'd like to motivate manufacturers to keep the power consumption down as much as possible, but again, considering all the things that's in there, it was kind of to be expected. Now, a more serious downside, however, is the aggressive chroma subsampling being applied when you're running 4K at 144 Hz, and this is a major pain point for this screen. You're not going to notice that in gaming. What essentially happens is the color gets compressed a little bit more, so there's slight color degradation, which you don't see while gaming, but you definitely see when working in desktop scenarios, when you're just browsing around the internet or doing photo editing, which essentially means you need to swap down from 144 Hz, set it down to 120 Hz, and the problems are gone and the picture is perfect. Now, this doesn't sound like too much of a pain, and ideally you could just set it back and forth, but even with our experience with this monitor over the last week or two, to us it's a pain to constantly change the settings. So essentially what's going to happen is you're going to set this to 120 Hz and leave it at that. And that's not a problem because you cannot see the difference or notice the difference between 120 Hz and 144 Hz. However, Asus is selling this as a 144 Hz monitor. There is 144 Hz in the box, there's 144 Hz on the product webpage. Well, essentially what you're getting is a 120 Hz. Again, you're not going to notice, but please sell it as a 120 Hz screen and we'll be done with it. Now, the other thing that you really do need to consider is obviously the price. Now, we've heard about 2,600 euros here in the Netherlands, roughly $2,000 in the States, and it's going to depend a bit where you are and how it is with the taxes. But by any standard, that is an insane amount of money for a monitor. It's understandable, it's early adoption, you get the coolest shit today, and even though it's going to get cheaper somewhere next year, you are going to pay a bit more to have a fantastic experience now. So we do understand it being a bit more expensive, but we obviously have to point out this is simply for people that want to have the coolest stuff and cannot wait for it. Now, one of the things you shouldn't have to worry about if you're considering like, ooh, maybe this is being overtaken from a technological point of view anytime soon, that is not going to happen. It's taken us years to come here. This screen has been rumored to come out 2 years ago. So nothing better, technologically better, is going to come out anytime soon. However, what might happen is that this screen or this technology might come to a larger screen size. And that is where things do start getting interesting, because 4K on 27-inch is great. It's super sharp. However, you could easily put 4K on a 32 or a 35-inch screen. And considering this is all about the HDR and the local dimming and the immersion benefits from a larger screen. Now, we have heard rumors of a 32-inch version coming out somewhere next year, and in theory that does sound like a nice upgrade. Unfortunately, we don't know when it's going to come. It might be even more than a year, and we also don't know how much that is going to cost, and it's probably going to be even more expensive on this one. However, we have to say, like with every first generation product, there is always that question of what is going to happen next year. Again, something better, unlikely. Something bigger, possibly. Something cheaper, definitely. Because this technology is going to be here to stay for a while, and by this time next year you can probably buy something similar for a lot less. So let's round it up for the Asus ROG Swift PG27UQ, and it is an amazing monitor. It is a phenomenal monitor. There is nothing like this on the market. Gaming on this is unlike anything we've seen before, and even doing all the other stuff like photo editing and video editing, it is a perfect can-do-everything screen. Yes, it's freaking expensive. 2,600 euros here in the Netherlands is an insane price, and there's plenty of reasonable options. But if you're asking us what is the best, most fantastic, most amazing monitor out there, and I don't care what it costs, then this is definitely it. And there's, aside from the price, there is the power consumption to consider, and there is the chroma subsampling to consider, so take it as a 120 Hz monitor instead of 144, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this is above and beyond anything we've seen on the market so far. Well, that's it guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Give us a like if you liked it, give us a sub if you want to see more, and definitely let us know what you think of this screen right here. What are you thinking? $2,000, I'll take 3, or what do you think, this is crazy talk, I'll wait a year. Either way, hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.